Jacinda Ardern's first meeting with Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull was a polite affair.
And when she offered to help him out with his pending refugee disaster on Manus Island, the answer, as expected, was thanks, but a very firm no thanks. Australia correspondent Connor Whitten reports.
Building a bridge across the ocean.
I normally look at the harbour from my kayak.
Jacinda Ardern's Trans-Tasman handshake, her first as Prime Minister with a foreign leader.
I am no kayaker or paddleboarder, but I can fish.
It could have been an awkward affair, given Australia's Foreign Minister's pre-election suspicion of the Labor Party Ardern newly led.
Should there be a change of government, I would find it very hard to build trust.
But the talk between leaders was friendship and family.
We're family and we have a shared future.
Though like any family, we don't always agree. Ardern raised the prickly issue of Manus Island, reiterating New Zealand's offer to take 150 of the asylum seekers who remain without power, water or food.
We thank New Zealand for making that offer. We are not taking it up at this time.
Instead, Malcolm Turnbull's pursuing a deal with America, a refugee swap which Donald Trump called the worst deal ever made. New Zealand's offer is a last resort, as Australia's hoping for the resettlement of 1,100 more than we're willing to take.
At the moment, that is what I know. We are able to, with confidence, make sure that we are able to resettle with the amount of support that is required and deserved.
But even that for Ardern is a small victory. Until now, New Zealand's proposal was dead.
That is an offer that does remain on the table.
It's not the only unresolved issue. Labor's criticised Australia's policy of sending Kiwi criminals back to New Zealand, even when Australia is the place they call home. And Turnbull's planning education reforms which would make university expensive for Kiwis. Ardern insists she'll retaliate if so.
Well, we're committed to our policies, and as you know, look, I understand the criticism that we've seen on the other side of the Tasman, but I think that just as we respect New Zealand's right to manage its affairs, and New Zealand respects our right to do the same on this side of the ditch.
Ardern with a place at the Trans-Tasman table, where the manners are civil, but tension remains.
OK, Connor, did anything else come out of the talks today?
Well, both leaders are off to APEC shortly, where the TPP will be big on the agenda. Malcolm Turnbull and Jacinda Ardern both affirmed their support for that today. But Ardern has some new bottom lines. She wants to lose the investor states dispute clause, which is what allows corporations to sue governments. And Australia knows all about that. They were sued by tobacco giant Philip Morris over their introduction of plain packaging for cigarettes. Despite that, Malcolm Turnbull says he won't push for the same. He says he understands New Zealand's position, but that won't be a bottom line for him, and that could leave Ardern out in the cold when it comes to renegotiating the TPP.
OK, and where do you think the relationship between the two countries is at now?
Well, this was a difficult task for Ardern today. On the one hand, Labor has been very critical of Australia's treatment of New Zealand's citizens, and it needs to look strong on human rights. On the other, this is a critical relationship, New Zealand's biggest ally on the international stage. In the end, both sides get to claim a sort of victory. Turnbull gets to hold his line on Manus Island, while Ardern gets to put her compassion on show. But all that leads to very little real progress. And for those on Manus Island, things are getting worse.
Connor, thank you.
Well, Cleo Fraser has been talking to one of the detainees on Manus Island in Papua New Guinea. And Cleo, what's he told you?
It's been several days since power was cut to the detention centre on Manus Island. 600 detainees, asylum seekers, refugees there without power or food. Now, I have been on the phone to one of those detainees. They told me that they're hungry, thirsty and feeling very desperate. They described last night as absolutely horrible and said that they feared for their life.
OK, what about from a legal perspective? What's the next move for those wanting to help the detainees?
Well, I've just been on the phone to one of the lawyers who is representing those detainees, Greg Barnes. He's based in Hobart. He told me that in the Supreme Court at Port Moresby tomorrow. They will be there fighting for power to be restored to the detention centre and for food and water to be brought in to these detainees. Now, they'll also argue that the detainees' constitutional rights have been breached and that they should be allowed to go to a third country like New Zealand. Now, he also said he was disappointed that Jacinda Ardern didn't put more pressure on Malcolm Turnbull when they spoke today, and also said that both Malcolm Turnbull and Jacinda Ardern showed no compassion towards the detainees who were in a pretty desperate situation.
Cleo, thank you.